I have had, honestly, a really weird and kind of an off day. It's been filled with lots of stress, and what really set it off for me was when I went to eat my lovely pad thai that I was looking forward to the entire day. So that was my last straw. I have rallied. I am here now, and it's 12 a.m. So I just made myself a dirty Shirley. Shit. Let's try that again. I thought nothing would be better than to sit down and talk to you guys because there's nothing better than chatting with a friend. I think that will really turn my day around. And by day, I mean night. You're getting late night Ava tonight. I don't really, oh my gosh, I'm like outing myself as a grandma here, but I do not go to bed this late. So this is gonna be interesting. It is 12:21 a.m. So that plus this, we don't know what we're gonna get. I asked you to ask me questions on my Instagram, so if you wanna participate in the next one, make sure you follow me on there, but I have not looked at these yet. Might be juicy, might be personal. Let's begin. How do you manage your social and independent time? This one's really interesting because I still feel like I don't have a good balance of this. There will be times and periods where I am just obsessed with focusing on myself, pouring into myself, and spending time by myself. And that is a really great thing. I feel like I'm on the path to mastering, not mastering. I'm definitely getting better at learning how to be alone, but sometimes the negative side of that can be that I'll unintentionally isolate myself because it's not like I'm spending time alone where I'm like, I do not need anyone, I do not want anyone, but it's more just me focusing on me. But in turn, I feel like in the past, I've really neglected some friendships that are really important to me. And so I'm trying to find a balance of that. I feel like I'm starting to get there where I'll have some good friendship time and where I'll have some good me time. And I definitely think me time outweighs it a little bit just because personally I feel like I tend to be someone who prefers to be by themselves more often. I'm really trying to pour more into my friendships and relationships, and that's also been making me really happy because when I was spending too much time by myself, I noticed that I was feeling unfulfilled in that way. So now that I'm starting to find that balance, I feel like it's getting better. What advice would you give to your high school self? The first thing I would do if I could sit down with my high school self is be like, 1, you do not have to wear short and tight jean shorts every day. 2, I would hug myself. 3, I would tell myself that boys don't matter as much as I think they do. 4, it's okay to not know what you're doing with your life. You don't have to have it all figured out. You're only in high school. You have the rest of your life ahead of you. And 5, I wish I could tell myself that nothing is as big of a deal as it seems in high school. And that's not to invalidate anyone who's in high school right now or to invalidate my problems that I had when I was in high school, but it's an interesting perspective to look back because hindsight is always the best sight, and look back and be like, things that I thought were so serious and things that I thought were the genuine end of the world were not the end of the world. If I drop this on myself at any point in this video, we're done. This will not come out of my white chair. What is a weird habit that you have? Love your videos, and I'm so excited for the podcast. I'm so excited that you guys are excited for the podcast. If you don't know, I have a podcast coming out on March 30th, the first episode, On My Mind with Ava Jules. A weird habit. The first one that comes to my mind, and one that I don't know when it started, it's so uncalled for, and it has, I don't want to say ruined my life, but it's gotten so constant that it's just a daily thing. This happens every day, and it's the fact that I need things to be an odd number. So whether it's the volume, whether it's the temperature on my AC, if it's not odd, it has to be odd. Everything has to be odd, and it's so weird. I don't know why. I feel like most people are even numbers people. Let me know which one you are down below, but I'm definitely an odd numbers person. But it's gotten to the point where it's a little excessive how much I care about things being odd numbers. I don't know what that says about me, but go ahead and analyze it. Something you have learned from being an influencer. I think the most important one is that no matter what I do, I'm not gonna be able to please anyone. And so I might as well be happy with what I'm doing, because if I can make myself proud, then that's great. If people agree with it, great. If people don't agree with it, that's also fine. When you are an influencer, your job kind of revolves around if people like you or not, and that can cause a little bit of an identity crisis sometimes. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is that it's really hard not to want to please everyone on the internet, because your career is built off of people watching you and people liking you. And so I've realized that I have to know who I am and create what I enjoy creating rather than trying to please everyone. What makes you angrier than it should? The first thing I can think of is when I was in high school and we would be taking a test and the room is silent and someone is like excessively coughing or sniffing. I don't know why that would set me off. I'm grateful that I have exited that scene, but I know some other people out there feel this way, where it's quiet in a room and every 5 seconds you hear. How to handle losing friends and learning to appreciate new beginnings. I have dealt with this. I've lost friends. I've lost a lot of friends in my life. I think the number one thing that I've learned with having to handle it is leaning more on myself and working on my relationship with myself. And obviously sometimes it's a lot harder than that, especially if it's like a really messy or tough friendship breakups, because there's different levels to friendship breakups. There's the best friend friendship breakups, absolutely the worst thing. And there's like the casual friends that you don't see anymore and that naturally phase out. But I think in both scenarios, personally what I would do is learning how to spend more time with myself. When you do that, you'll grow more comfortable in your own skin and you'll be able to know who you are as a singular person and not who you are in like a group of people. Because for me, sometimes what I struggled with was losing a little bit of my identity when I was in certain like friendships or certain friendship groups that were all consuming, because I think sometimes subconsciously you kind of morph into one in a way where I think you lose little bits of yourself, and that's obviously not all the time, but that's my advice for that, if that makes sense. And learning to appreciate new beginnings, I think what's always helped me to be excited about the future is knowing the fact that I haven't even experienced some of the best moments of my life yet. And to me, that's exciting because I know those moments are gonna come, and that brings me a lot of joy looking forward to stuff like that. Do you believe in second chances? And if yes, what would happen for you to give one? So I think it really depends on the situation. I think most of the time, a second chance can be a good thing because humans aren't perfect. We're all gonna mess up. None of us are gonna be the perfect friend, the perfect partner, the perfect daughter, son, whatever. It's just human nature. We all mess up and it's inevitable. So I think in a lot of cases, second chances are a good thing, but there's some cases where if you give them a second chance, you're just giving them a second chance to hurt your feelings again. So it's really important to analyze the situation. Does this person genuinely deserve a second chance? Was this, just a natural mistake? I feel like it really depends on the situation. Are you still not used to living alone? I feel like you're treating it as a vacation. Why do I feel like this is shady? It might not be. Maybe I'm just taking it shadily. Shadily? Is that a word? I don't know. I am used to living alone. It's almost been 4 months, and this definitely just feels like normal life. I feel like sometimes in my videos, I'm like, I'm still not used to this. It feels weird. But that's because I've lived at home for 21 years and I've only lived alone for 4 months. So yes, this does feel like my life now, and it does feel normal and it feels good, but it's definitely still weird where I'll have some moments where I'm just like, I'm never gonna live with my parents again. I'm really sad. My childhood is gone and I'm just gonna be an adult forever. That's that. What do you think you would have been doing if you weren't an influencer right now? Honestly, it's hard to say because I started this when I was 13 and I started making money when I was in high school. And so I never got to the point where I was in high school and I had this job already. I saw that it was starting to pick up and I realized, I think maybe like freshman, sophomore year, I was like, okay, this can really be something. So I've never went through that period in high school where I'm like, holy shit, I have no plans. I don't know what I'm doing, which I feel like is a really common thing for people to go through. If you're going through that, that is totally normal. I feel like a lot of people have those moments in high school where you're just like, what am I doing next? I'm supposed to know what I'm gonna do with my life, and I'm literally 16. How am I supposed to have the answer to that? I think if I started this whole influencer journey maybe in college, I kind of would have had to have a plan, but I've always known that this could be something and I believed in myself. I don't know, I've never really had to think about it because I was so young when I started, but I think if I were to stop doing this now, I would love to still be involved in some way, whether that's editing videos for other people or something in the creative space, because I love this and I love the back end business side of things. So I definitely think I'd still be involved in some way if I wasn't the one who was in front of the camera. Where's Connor been? Everyone thinks I broke up with Connor because I don't post him that much anymore, because I've been really enjoying to keep my relationship more private, and that's been a conscious decision that I've made. Where's he been? Well, right now he is asleep while I'm filming. So we are very much still together. When you first started doing YouTube, how were you so confident when recording? I literally wasn't. Social media wasn't a thing really back then. There wasn't the pressure to look like a baddie and look like a hot Instagram girl, because back in 2013, social media wasn't like how it is now. And so there was just a lot less pressure, and also I was just so young, but I wasn't confident. I just did it. What do you do when you have a bad mental health day? So it really depends on the severity of it. Sometimes I will just like rot in those feelings and feel like shit about myself, and I won't be able to like pull myself out of that mood. And sometimes I'll distract myself and do things that make me feel good, and I'll eventually get out of that mood and face those feelings when I'm in a better headspace. So it really just depends. How do you deal with your changing idea of home since moving out? So I still consider my parents' house home. I literally call it home. I'll call them and be like, or text them, hey, I'm coming home today. But I also call my apartment home now. And I think it's okay to have more than one home. I don't think home is always a place, but sometimes it's the people. For me, certain people just feel like home. Those are people you need to keep in your life. It's okay to have more than one place that you call home. I know it can be sometimes weird to deal with that idea of what home is changing, because change in any sense of life can be a really difficult, hard thing to accept and navigate. Sometimes a place won't feel like home right away. This didn't feel like home right away, but I think you have to create it. How do you decide on what moments in life to film and not to film? So this is something that I definitely still struggle with, and I'm trying to find a good balance. For me, I think the biggest thing and the biggest step I've taken with this is starting to show less of my relationship, which in result, I've gotten lots of questions and DMs being like, where's Connor? Did you guys break up? Which I get it, because I showed him not a lot, but he wasn't it a lot more than he is now. And for me, I just started to value more privacy in my life, and I have decided that it's okay for me to not share everything on the internet. It's okay to have some things that are private and just for me, because I don't know, I think it makes it a lot more special. But even in terms of other things, like say I see a pretty sunset at a beach, how do you not take pictures of it? But also, I would love to just sit and live in the moment, but I also love to capture the moment so I can look at it later. It's a very weird balance, but I think it's an issue we all have because it's so accessible to us today to just like snap pics and photos all the time. Not everything should or needs to be documented. I think the most important thing is that you have the memory in your head, and sometimes when you're capturing it, you're mostly focusing on the moment through the screen, when in reality, what's more important is enjoying what's in front of you rather than through the screen, if that makes sense. But I also, to counter that, it's like, well, then you won't have photos to look back at. You have to trust your memory. I don't know. How do you deal with letdowns when they don't meet your expectations? So I'm gonna assume she means in a romantic sense. If someone lets you down constantly, take that as a sign. I think everyone needs to have non-negotiable things that they value in a relationship, and for everyone it's going to be different. But if someone is continuously letting you down and showing you that they are not respecting you and listening to what you genuinely need and want out of them, I think that's a good sign that maybe they're not the one. If someone can't deliver that, and that's really important to you, never settle for less. I hear so many females talking about how they want to lower their standards. Never lower your standards. Never lower your expectations, because someone will meet them and someone will value you enough to exceed them and understand what you want and need out of a relationship and love that about you. How do you deal with feeling imperfect compared to others? I feel like it is a natural thing for humans to compare yourself to other people, to people who you deem more successful, more beautiful than you. And I honestly just think that that is like the natural human condition. I don't know if anyone will ever not experience comparison, because I just feel like it's a natural part of life. Maybe some people don't. I don't know. But for me, I just feel like it's just a part of the gig. It's a part of life. And so I've kind of accepted that in a way. I'm like, okay, you know, I'll go through moments where I compare myself a little bit, and that's okay. It used to feel like the end of the world when I would compare myself to someone. But what I've realized is that someone else's success does not take away from mine. If anything, use it as inspiration, use it as motivation to achieve what you want, because if someone else can do it, why can't you? And in terms of comparing myself to other people's beauty or their body, the biggest game changer for me was realizing that someone else's beauty does not take away from my own. Like, there's not this huge bucket of how much beautiful there is in the world. It's endless. We all have different qualities. We all have things that are special about us. And I don't know, I definitely, thinking about it like that, I haven't struggled with it as much. That's not to say that sometimes I don't, because sometimes I'll get into a deep pit of like, just looking at other people's lives and being like, frick, why is mine not like that? Why? I think a lot of us have experienced that, especially with social media, because obviously you're seeing people's curated moments, and it can be hard to be like, why isn't my life like that? But I feel like I've been able to switch my mindset a little bit to looking at social media as more of an art form instead of taking it for what it is. Like looking at someone's Instagram feed and being like, yep, this is their exact life. Because it's not. What's the first time you felt like a real adult? Unfortunately, it was when I started paying bills. Are you planning to get all your money from social media for the long run? Definitely not. I feel like I'm looking at social media as more of a stepping stone into other things that I might want to do with my life, and I don't really know exactly what that is yet. If I'm able to do this however long I can for however long I desire to, great. And once I'm ready to move on to the next thing, I'm so blessed, because I feel like I have a lot of options for what I could do next and transitioning into that. So no, I don't think I'm gonna be like a 50-year-old mom vlogger. And if you are, more power to you. But I don't know if I see myself like consistently posting as much as I do now down the line. I don't know how long I could see myself doing that. Definitely, don't worry. I'm like, don't you worry. That's not gonna be for a very long time, because I love doing this and it just makes sense. But who knows what social media is gonna look like when I'm 30. I don't even know what I'm doing next year. I don't know what I'm gonna do when I'm 30. I don't know what I'm gonna do when this era of life slows down a little bit. I have no idea. Ava, are you team doors or wheels? I am so sorry if you disagree. It's gotta be wheels. It's wheels. I'm so sorry. How do you stay positive on YouTube if something difficult is going on in your life? I have gone through a lot of stuff that has not stopped me from posting videos and putting on a good face, and I don't think that was me being fake, but YouTube has always just been such a happy outlet for me and a way for me to kind of escape whatever. It is 1 a.m. Oh my gosh. I don't know, for me it's an outlet, and like I said, I'm not gonna share every single thing, so if I'm going through something, I feel like a lot of the time I can separate that from what I share on YouTube and keep going. I really have never taken a break, and I've gone through a lot of ups and plenty of downs in my real life that YouTube hasn't seen, and I think that's okay. There are things that I do choose to share, but sometimes, like I said, I've got to find that boundary of handling things in my real life and not always letting that affect my YouTube life, because when stuff like that happens, when I'm really going through something rough, sometimes I will talk about it and share that so we can kind of all learn together and I can share my experience with whatever's going on. But a lot of the time I will tell myself, you need to separate this because this is your job. And you know, people who work a 9 to 5, if they're having a bad couple of days, they don't get to just call off for however long they're feeling bad. You have to push through it. And so if I'm really going through something tough, then that's how I'll kind of frame it. Like, you've got to upload, you've got to do it. And honestly, that kind of helps sometimes because it'll get me out of my own head and I'm able to create content that I love. And doing YouTube just makes me so happy. I love YouTube. Do you regret not moving to New York? Absolutely not. I am so happy with the decision I made to stay in Hawaii. I just feel like it makes me the most happy. It just feels right. And I think a part of me would have felt unsettled if I had just like moved across the country away from my family, gone through this whole life change without, you know, my partner, my closest friends. I think that would have been really hard. I do also think that if I was in that situation, I would have had to adjust and I probably would be happy. But looking at it from the perspective that I am now, I'm just so happy with the decision that I made, because at a point I was like, wait, every influencer is moving to New York City. Like, do I need to move to New York City? Am I still gonna be relevant if I don't move to New York City, because everyone's kind of flocking there and I feel like that's where all the action is? But I'm really happy because I love Hawaii and I grew up here, I was born here, it feels like home here, and I'm creating a new life for me here. Even though I still live in the same place, it feels like I've kind of started a new chapter in a new life. How can I learn to love my shoe size? I'm a size 11 in Converse and I hate it. Girl, you are talking to someone who is also a size 11, sometimes an 11 and a half. And I used to be insecure about it, mostly because people at school would like poke jokes at it, especially guys who were like, oh, your feet are so big. You know what big feet means? Big heart. So, why do you have small feet then? I was thinking about it. I was like, if I had small feet with the height that I am, I would topple over. Like I need my big feet to support this body, to support my body weight and to support my height. But I do know how you feel, because I remember when I was younger and I hadn't like accepted the fact that I had big feet because all of my friends had smaller feet. And I was always just like, oh my gosh, my feet look so goofy in Converse. I don't know why, but Converse, love Converse, obsessed. I have so many pairs. But back in the day when I was insecure about my shoe size, I felt like Converse elongated them and made them look longer, so I wouldn't wear Converse. Why did I care? Why did I care? That's one of those things I look back and I'm like, do you go on your phone when on the toilet? Yes, unless I forget it, and that's when you read the shampoo bottles and skincare bottles. How to stop feeling like I'm falling behind in life. Been struggling with this lately. I get this a lot, and I think a lot of this roots from comparison and seeing what other people around you are doing, what other people online are doing with their lives, and say you're the same age or they're younger than you and they're doing more things than you are and you're freaking out. I get that because I've been there. And something that's helped me to stop feeling like I'm falling behind is understanding that we are all on our own timeline. We're all creating our own lives. There's no set time frames that things need to happen. And I know sometimes it feels like there's a rush to like do all of these things, and I feel that sometimes too, but it's good to slow down sometimes and be like, I need to stop worrying so much, because for me, I have a lot of anxiety surrounding the future, and so I've been trying not to put too much pressure on it, because the future is gonna come, it's gonna happen. The only thing I can do is, one, not worry about it because that's unproductive, and two, just make sure I'm taking steps in my life in the present to make sure that I can have a good future. How have you changed from high school? How do I say this lightly? I do not identify with my high school self. In some ways, maybe like 10% of high school me, but other than that, if you knew high school me, I'm like, you do not know me now. No, but yeah. I need to stop drinking this, but I want the cherries. Please, please. Shit. Those are all the questions I'm gonna answer for this video. First of all, you guys never miss. These questions hit. I hope you feel closer to me. I feel like we have such a good connection. Could just be me, I don't know. You all are the best, and I hope you simply know that. And if you stayed to this point in the video, first of all, you're awesome, because I know this shit was long. I know this is a long video, so if you sat through. And second, comment down below the martini emoji, so I know who really stayed till the end. This is not a martini, but they don't have a Shirley Temple emoji. Can we start a petition for that? I need to go to bed. My foot is asleep. Oh my gosh, my foot is asleep. It hurts so bad. I literally cannot feel it. I need to go to bed. Goodbye.